What, we're live? Hey!
You knew we were going to be live.
No, I thought I knew that. We were going to record that part.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Should I go now?
Yeah, you should
Okay.
go now.
This is Jon McNaughton, your artist and host of the new Patriot Art Show, something that we've been talking about doing for quite a while. My friend Seth Smith, who I will introduce you to. And man, this is going to be a blast, something I've never done before. And, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure you do that so that you can be aware of each one of these shows, because we're going to do this once a week. And basically, I'm going to be talking about some of my paintings. I'm going to be talking about, with Seth, my friend, about current events, things that are going on, just all the crazy stuff in this country. And there's a lot of that. So should be fun. And, I'd love to have you join us on this adventure. But let me start out by telling you about my friend Seth here. We have been, how long have we known each other, Seth?
Oh, how long have we known each other, John? How long do we admit to knowing each other? Since
2009?
No, it was after the election.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2009, 2010. Mm-hmm. When did you release One Nation Under God?
About 2009, I think.
About 2009.
Yeah. So let me tell you the story. Seth called me out of the blue, and he said, "Hey, I want to make a video about your One Nation Under God painting." And so I was like, "Well, okay, how much is it going to cost me?" "Nothing. I'll do it for free." And I'm like, "Okay, I like that idea." So Seth,
that was when I was young and stupid.
So Seth made this video, and it went major viral, and we had like millions of views on it. And so since then, Seth and I have just kept in touch. We've been friends. He makes videos for me, and recently he said, "Hey, I got this great idea. Let's do some kind of YouTube show where you can talk about your artwork." And I don't have the time to like do all the videos myself all the time. And Seth, this is his expertise, and Seth and I, we have good conversations, so it just made a lot of sense.
Yeah, good conversations. I mean, he was conversing on the phone earlier for so long that I fell asleep on the couch in his studio. So it was great.
That's how comfortable Seth is in my studio.
So yeah, wake me up.
People know me for my my landscapes, my religious New Testament faith type art, but most people know me for my patriotic political art, which is pretty much all I do these days. Yeah. There's just so much going on in the world. It has to be said. I have to put it in a painting.
Which I will say that it's weird that you're known for your political paintings, because when I met you, you had only done the one political painting.
Yeah, the One Nation Under God. The one that you did the video. I mean, the thing that started everything, because up until that point, I never even imagined that I could ever like sell pictures like that. I mean, I only painted political back then simply because I just had to say what I was feeling through my art. And now I can do that every day, express my feelings through my art, and people actually, they want to buy this, which makes it possible so I can do more of it. So it's really great. I love it.
So speaking of political art, you've actually made your brand new. You do a lot of art. You do sketches all the time.
Yeah.
But there are artworks. There's pieces of artwork that you spend a lot of time on, and your most recent one that you just released is called The Magnificent Seven.
Right.
And that's today. That's what we wanted to talk about.
Cool. Yeah. Well, there's lots to say about it. I mean, people want to know what kind of crazy person would paint this, and for me, all these paintings, they start with just a fun kind of outrageous idea. What if I brought this together? What would it mean? I try to get a reaction out of my paintings. I want people, when they first see them, to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody painted that." But then as they look closer, they see that there's some serious undertones, that there's something there. And people that see my artwork, they come in all different kinds. I mean, there's people that absolutely hate what I do. It makes them angry. And then you have those that actually have sent me emails telling me that it brought them to tears, But I think the average person, when they first see the pictures, that gets a little bit of a chuckle, maybe a laugh, and then they start looking at it and they see that there's something there. And if they agree with my political sentiments, they usually absolutely love the painting. If they can't stand Trump, they hate Republicans or whatever, then it actually, I mean, they get upset. I get trolls. I mean, I think I've probably been the most photoshopped, trolled artist of all time. I can't think of any. I'm flattered, and at the same time, I'm just like, whoa. Anyway, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and dig into this painting and kind of talk about it and what I was thinking. I think it'll be cool. Um, so it's called the Magnificent Seven. I've had this idea for this painting for over a year. And of course, there was a movie that was called The Magnificent Seven.
There's
And
a couple of them.
there's a couple of them,
or
like a
there's
modern version, or
Yeah, there was an original that was back,
is that the cowboy one?
back in,
Yul Brynner.
100 years ago when you were born.
Yeah, had the guy from the Ten Commandments.
Yeah,
Yul
yeah.
Brynner, the Pharaoh. He played
Yeah.
the real bad boy.
Yeah, back then, and then they just made a new iteration of that. Chris Pratt was in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. He could have been a model in one of my paintings if he'd let me.
He's definitely conservative.
Yes, I like him.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was thinking of this idea. Wouldn't it be cool to have like 7 totally crazy, different presidents, not all exactly the same, maybe even throw in a Democrat or two, but these are presidents that stood up to the establishment. Okay, they stood up to the big guy, and they may not actually even like each other if they met each other in real life. How would they respond? I don't know, but each one of them brings something to the table where they could fight against the establishment. And it's kind of a fantasy idea, but I had to come up with the 7 presidents that I would want on my team. This is the McNaughton team. And I knew that when I did this, that there would be people that would be like, oh, no, don't put them in the mix, or why didn't you add this person? And honestly, I had some presidents I considered. I thought about putting Calvin Coolidge in the painting. But then it's like, nobody would know who it is. It'd be like I get this guy, but who's that guy? And
Calvin Coolidge is probably the greatest conservative president, but yeah, nobody knows who he is.
No, he wasn't a very like how should you say, he wasn't like a real exciting personality.
Wow,
that's what they said about him at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the personalities you put in, they had personality. I mean, he was very quiet,
very quiet, very yeah. So as much as I liked them, I wanted these to be people that when you put them in, that it would be easy for them to be recognizable. So I did that, and I came up with my 7, and from left to right, you've got Thomas Jefferson, Ronald Reagan, George Washington, Donald Trump, Abraham Lincoln, bad boy, and Teddy Roosevelt, and JFK. Okay, that is the motley crew. So I wanted each one to have a different kind of pose that was kind of unique. And I had to make sure they all had the right height, because some are taller than others.
Like Lincoln.
Lincoln was tall.
Yeah.
So was Trump, and so was Washington. Of course, Teddy was shorter. If I had put James Madison in here, he would have been a literal midget compared to some of these other ones. But that's cool. I wanted each to have a different gesture, different feeling. I have Ronald Reagan as a lefty, where the rest are right-handed, and so just stuff like that, and putting them in an environment that looks like a war scene, battlefield. You got crumbling buildings and mortar and different pieces of broken concrete on the ground. You got the snake, and I'll get back to that, what that's about. But all wearing this tactical combat gear, and they've got their M16s, and I mean, these guys are ready to go to battle. So it's kind of a fun idea. You got the American flag in the background, patriotic, with the sky clearing, and just it had to be kind of an iconic image is what I was shooting for. The Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers. It is kind of comical at first to just imagine George Washington with all this gear on. It doesn't fit what you would imagine George Washington.
No. He's not in the colonial general outfit that you normally see.
But what really struck me, what really unified all of these people in this image for me, was when you said that these were people who stood up against the establishment.
Right.
And that's where I was like, oh, you're right. Oh, this does make sense then. They stood up, and what is the image that, for standing up for what you believe in, obviously the military, the people who stand up for freedom.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people in our country that do that on a daily basis. But what made these presidents unique in the way they stood up to that? It's interesting too, in that even among conservatives, some of these really famous presidents are hated. Like there's a certain number of conservatives that absolutely hate Lincoln, for the different reasons. And I'll get into that, but so it's not like I was trying to pick the president that was the most squeaky clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I say this is a motley crew. They're not all squeaky clean. So you start with over here. Let's zoom in on our Thomas Jefferson. He was, of course, wrote the Declaration of Independence. I mean, talk about standing up to the establishment, King of England and everything. And I just thought, he became one of our presidents, and he was always seeming to stand up to the establishment and the status quo and everything about him.
Well, even what people have gotten mad about Thomas Jefferson and the fact that he owned slaves. And more recently in our history, right, we just like last week, 2 weeks ago, they removed that Thomas Jefferson statue from New York City.
Yeah.
And I find that so fascinating, that argument about him, that he grew up in a culture that embraced slavery, and he was one to say, this is wrong. In fact, the first iteration of the Declaration of Independence he had written as one of the wrongs of the King of England was that the King of England had foisted slavery upon the American colonies. He had written that out, and in fact, Glenn Beck owns the original copies.
Really?
Yeah, he does.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and so they were talking about that, and the southern states were the ones that said, no, we don't want to do that. And interestingly enough, I mean, the southern states at that time were the most economically powerful at that time. And so he was still trying to stand up against something that he perceived as very evil in that time.
Yeah, you have to judge them based on the times in which they lived. I mean, these guys were like big thinkers. They were revolutionaries, in their time. And a lot of them were abolitionists. And so, I mean, you're going to find dirt on any one of these guys, but they did stand against the establishment. That's what I love. And, Reagan, he came in at a time right on the heels of Jimmy Carter, and
who they thought was the worst president.
Oh, yeah.
And Biden has just outpaced him in 10 months.
Oh, yeah.
Biden's done a fantastic job.
He's going to win that award. He's going to win it. But, Reagan came in, and his first term, he wasn't that popular because of the things he was doing, but he changed the trajectory of the country, and we had this massive economic boom because of what he had done. And, I like Reagan. What conservative doesn't? He's a good one to have in the mix. And I tell you, it was fun dressing these guys up, making them a little bit, each one a little different. And so they're not all the same. I mean, I had to go out and buy all this tactical equipment just for this painting. I mean,
some of it's still in your studio.
Yeah, I've got it sitting over there. I mean, I bought a bulletproof vest. That thing weighs like,
is it here?
Yes, it weighs like 50, 60 pounds.
I'm gonna
put
it over
there.
The show's over.
Yeah, it's like super heavy. And I put these on my models, and they're like, oh gosh. And one of them got a blister, from because I took so many pictures of them and wearing that heavy thing. Wow. So yeah, it's we work hard to get these paintings
makes you
accomplished.
What our troops do.
Oh, I know.
And
no kidding.
Just on the tactical side of what they have to train for.
Yeah, I looked at lots of pictures of like Navy SEALs and troops in Iraq and just how they wore it. And not that these are exactly. I mean, I'll probably have somebody that fought in the war. They'll say, you should have tweaked this and that. But you know, I just had fun with it. You know, so here you got George Washington. Let me zoom in on him a little bit. Old George, and you know, I tried to give these like a realism to it. Like this is how this. I look at like 6 or 7 pictures of each of these presidents and combine them, and try to get a very believable version of say George Washington. But I had to make him look kind of mean, you know, and he's always so nice looking in the paintings and stuff. So here he looks like he's ready to like blow your head off. You know, George, you don't mess with George Washington.
Especially not on Christmas.
No, not on Christmas. And you know, even his own troops said that when George Washington got angry, watch out. I mean, they knew not to cross him when, you know, this is what have you heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard that.
He was badass.
Well, haven't you seen that the meme where it's like, "Don't mess with America. We will come across the river on Christmas Day and murder you in your sleep."
Oh gosh! But they didn't murder him; they just captured him.
Well, yeah, there were some fatalities.
Was there?
But not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot.
Well, hey, you know, we won our independence, so hallelujah. Okay, so this is the one. You know, President Trump, he was the first figure I did right in the middle. I finished him before I started any of the other presidents because I had to get the right look. And I wanted to capture that look where like he is going to get you. He's going after you, which is kind of like how he would look at the fake news people, you know, when he'd show up at his, you know, that's the look right there. Like, you sucker. What do you think you're doing? So anyway,
what's interesting about Trump is that he was such a media mogul. Like the media loved him for years, and so somebody had observed that he probably thought that the media would play ball after a while. And when the media turned on them, he turned on the media, and when he turned on the media, I mean, there wasn't a conservative in the country who was like, "Oh my gosh, this is real." Like the media is lying to us.
They've never seen anything like this before. I mean, Trump changed the game in so many ways. You know, the rules. There used to be all these rules for what was considered presidential, and you know, and Trump just like heck with that. I mean, and he had to. I mean, how else would he have been able to even get anywhere in the country had he played by their rules? So yeah, I had to think of the right pose for him, and you know, and people say, well, you didn't make him fat enough, or I mean, give me a freaking break. You know, every president, you know, even Obama, I painted him, you know, as good as I could. I didn't try to make his ears bigger or do anything like that. You know, if you look at the way I painted him, he is a little more heavy set than say Washington, but I'm not gonna like exaggerate his weight.
Well, plus the idea is that he's been in battle. Maybe he's lost a few pounds.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. But I deeply admire President Trump for what he did, and I'm realistic, and he's not a perfect individual. I have a lot of Christian friends that will say, you know, doesn't it bother you that he said this or did that, you know? And I judge a person on their actions right now, and what Trump has done for this country, it blows my mind. So he's definitely front and center. Okay, Abraham Lincoln. I mean, you know, doesn't he just look like he's ready to rip you a new one there? You know, he stood up to a lot of the bankers, you know, which is another thing that JFK did. I'll talk about. You know, they wanted to bring in their own notes, and he wouldn't allow them. This was a big thing, you know, after the Civil War that I read about, and you know, he stood up to slavery and yada yada down the list. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't like Lincoln for things related to the Civil War, you know, things removing habeas corpus and so forth. But it's funny, you know, history remembers these presidents, you know, based on certain things that they do. And, you know, Lincoln could have gone down as our worst president, but because of the Emancipation Proclamation and preserving the Union, he's considered one of our greatest. But to this day, those of the South, they can't stand the guy. So, yeah, he's a bad boy, but I had to put him in there. Did you want to say anything about Lincoln?
Oh, just that, you know, he's lionized for a reason. I mean, he really did preserve the Union, and Ulysses S. Grant came in after him and made the argument, you know, like, of course we had to fight, of course we had to do this because the Union was created through the sacrifice of blood and treasure, and that's why we have to preserve this Union. and these ideas that he fought for. And really, the tipping point for Lincoln in the Civil War, really what made him a great president was that he went back to the founding fathers. That's what the whole Gettysburg Address was about, is that 407 years ago, our forefathers, like he went back to what they were teaching, which was that every person has inalienable rights that are given to us through God. And once he realized that, he was agnostic. He didn't ascribe to any religious belief, none. He never revealed what his religious belief was. Every other president has told you what their denomination.
Yeah, and it's still very controversial about that, because some people say, yeah, he was totally a Christian. He was raised in a Christian home. He carried a copy of the New Testament, the Bible, with him everywhere he went. Blah blah blah. He attended.
That's the reading. He liked reading.
Yeah. And he attended the church that was near the White House on a regular basis. Had his own pew there. I mean, all these things they say, and yet he didn't. It wasn't until later that he started to openly talk about the providence of God in this country, and so my personal belief is that he was strongly Christian. He just didn't wear it on his open sleeve.
Well, and I think he became more Christian.
Probably so.
When he got into office, it was after the death of his son, I believe Willie. His name.
Yeah.
When Willie passed away, that was when he started.
I think so too. And it's interesting. People say the same, have said the same things about Trump. That he's not really Christian. He's just doing all this, and because his lifestyle before he became president. I mean, obviously he's been, people have said, well, he did this and he did that, and but. I feel personally that being president has humbled him quite a bit. And I mean, how many presidents have had a prayer at the beginning of every staff meeting? He didn't have to do that.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, I think that there's a lot more to it, but who are we to judge?
Well, the mere fact that Trump, he's the only sitting president to attend that was the Walk for Life, the March for Life in Washington, D.C.
Really? Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no other president, not even George W. Bush. I think they did it back as far as Reagan. I'm not sure, but I know that Reagan didn't attend, George H.W. Bush didn't, George W. Bush didn't. No Republican has ever attended. No sitting president has ever attended.
Well, he's definitely pro-life.
He's definitely pro-life. And that was a game changer for me in my perception of Trump, because the pro-life argument is not seen as popular.
True.
And he went for that.
It doesn't seem like Trump ever really cared too much about what was popular in terms of that sort of thing. But
no,
because I mean, if that was the case, he would have done a lot of things differently.
Yeah, he would have made a lot of policy changes to people.
But boy, pro-life, that'll be another episode of this show. We'll have to get into that because there's a lot going on there. Yeah. Okay, so then you got Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, he had to be in the picture, and the guy's just one tough, badass president, and definitely stood against the establishment, a lot of the trust busters and stuff like that. But I mean, he's one of those presidents that is kind of like he's two different presidents. He's the president you love and the president you hate, depending on what part of history you look at. So he was a good one to include. And then JFK, who stood up against the Federal Reserve, and all of that, which probably led to his assassination. I mean, there's a lot of rabbit hole there we could go down.
Oh, we go down, the Bay of Pigs. We go down that one.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there's things about him. People obviously will go, "Why did you put JFK in there?" But man, he stood against the establishment. He would be a Republican today. It's just so interesting, and he was kind of trashy in his personal life, as some of these other presidents might have been too. But as far as standing up against the big man and just fighting for America, he had to be on the team.
Well,
so
when your dad's in the mafia, I mean, you got a lot of power.
Yeah. The Kennedys, they've got quite a history.
I think he's my favorite of the characters you've painted. He just looks like he fits the most, and he served in the military too, wasn't he? In the Air Force.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so JFK is your favorite of all of them?
He looks the best. He just looks. It's a fantastic pose. It just.
Oh, you like just the general look?
He's got that JFK smoky look, like he's
yeah, but I kind of like that Lincoln pose. Steel. Look at Lincoln. I mean, he just look at that.
Okay.
I mean, he's just okay.
As an artist, you're entitled to pick.
All right, everybody can have their favorite. Jefferson looks pretty cool.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, well, I really like Trump. Okay, anyway, so the last thing I'll talk about is the snake, the serpent that Trump's stepping on. And that's like, I mean, that's a metaphor that's been around a long time. I have people saying, why did you have him stepping on a snake? Because it's the Gladstone snake, from the Gladstone flag. That's not what I was thinking.
Is it
Gadsden flag, sorry. And that's not what I was thinking. And I'm not necessarily trying to like take the metaphor from the Bible, crushing the head of the snake, although that could be slightly related. What I'm thinking is this represents that he's crushing the head of his enemies.
Yeah.
And who are those enemies? Well, Trump's got a lot of enemies. And right now it's obviously the Democrat Party. I mean, talk about a witch hunt this last year and the election and everything, but it could be political enemies, it could be the enemies of the United States of America. I mean, there's a lot of different institutions that not only have tried to take down Trump, but take down America as we know it. Yeah. And that's the idea of this painting, Magnificent Seven, is the tradition of America, represented by these presidents and others that have fought for what makes America great, and our institutions of freedom and all this stuff that makes America the greatest country in the world. And a lot of my art, I try to represent those ideas, and I do it in different kind of symbolic, metaphor, parody, whatever, so that people can look into the paintings and get something special out of it. And so that's kind of what this image is about. I could probably go on and talk more, but I think that gives you a good idea.
And if people wanted to buy this print, where do they go?
You want to go to jonmcnaughton.com. That's where all of my paintings are available, prints and giclées, and some are sold out, some are still available. But yeah, go there. And you can also, a lot of these have videos where I talk about or introduce these paintings on this YouTube channel, so you can find some of that. But yeah, go check it out.
Who helps you make these videos?
I've done about half of them, yeah, and you've done probably the better ones.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's.
I'm not that I'm looking for credit.
Yeah, you want a nice little pat on the back there. It's true. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Jon and I want to do these episodes every week, where he talks about not only his art but current events, history, and shares some of the insights behind these paintings. And we're just going to keep improving how we do this.
This is the first one. So, like, if you guys have ideas for shows that we could do, or questions or anything like that, we'll answer your questions here on the show. And we're just, it's kind of fun what you can do on this sort of a format. So
yeah, we're figuring it out as we go along. We're
yes,
really
we are.
About this, so
yes, we are. Make sure you subscribe. Should have said that at the beginning, but subscribe to the show. That way you'll know when the new ones are coming out.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks.